sales is not a difficult job at all. And yes, it's not a difficult job at all. And you just need to know certain things, certain processes, techniques, tactics, strategies, handling different products, solutions, or industries. And if you know customer psychology, and so long you have the right interest in educating and help people solve their biggest pain point, I don't see why somebody doesn't want to transact with you.
Have you ever had a time in your career or throughout your CEO where any of these three aspects of your life or just who you are had an effect with the business? Has that ever been a problem?
I wouldn't say that's a problem.
You don't have to name any names here, but just a situation?
Yeah, I think a couple of scenarios I can give is Asian men always have that dominating characters.
You mean the Chinese one, right?
No.
Yo, what's going up, everyone? Welcome to the latest or newest addition to CEOs Confess interviews. Today we've got Zeenath, who is the founder and CEO of APAC SMA. Very happy to have you here, Zeenath. First question, I guess, for everyone who has probably never seen you, met you. With our, CEOs Confess, we try to find the unique people and their stories. So can you tell us more? Who is Zeenath and what is APAC SMA all about?
So I'm a mother of four kids, and that defines me because everything I do around whatever I'm doing starts from there. And professionally, I'm the CEO of Asia Pacific Sales and Marketing Academy. I've been in the world of sales and marketing, particularly in inside sales and virtual sales for the last 25 years. And Asia Pacific Sales and Marketing Academy is shortly known as APAC SMA by many. And we are the leading authority in a one-stop e-university for sales. So we have sales certification and accreditations for professionals embarking on their sales career and across different functions of sales.
Okay, so in essence, your business basically helps train other salespeople how to sell better. And I'm sure there's probably a lot more categories under that, but
right.
In essence, like sales and marketing, right? How to do that better within a company?
Right, it's about enablement, transformation, and education.
Okay,
Yeah.
Awesome. So my next question then, trying to figure out how did this all come about is, what were like the major milestones in your life that led you up to coming up with APAC SMA? So before you even discovered the name maybe, but like what were the key milestones in your life that kind of helped you get the experience and then come to this conclusion, like this is something I want to do? Education, your family background, like tell me a little bit about that story.
Sure. So for me, I never even imagined this is what I'll be today, right? So we all start fresh, in life. We all go to school, we come out, we figuring out life, we get married, we get settled down, we get into a job, our first job. We don't know whether we like the job or not, but we get into and we're trying to understand and discover ourselves and our talents. So I'm similar to anybody, I started off like that. And one restriction that I have is to find a job that I don't need to face people, much. So I had to, something office bound kind of thing. So I started off with freelancing because I like freedom. And I started with gig kind of work way back in 1993.
Okay.
And I was helping insurance agents, with all their marketing and sales stuff behind the scene. So that's how I started. And then I got into some frontline jobs, and then I ended up in my first career in a call center environment where I had to handle inbound and outbound calls.
Yeah, like cold calls, right?
Not just cold calls. It could be any kind of calls,
Okay.
right? So people always define calls with telemarketing.
Yes.
right? But not necessarily. So
Okay.
inbound and outbound is basically like if you have incoming, like if you have inquiry, like today you have chat lines, inquiry emails, and inquiry hotlines, right? Similarly, we do have inbound. That's what we say, people calling us in to a particular line, that's inbound. And when we do outbound, that means we literally pick up the phone to call people out.
Yeah.
And it can be a sales related call, it could be a support or service related call, it could be an order. Like for example, I remember like M1, they introduced like delivering mobile phones through Harley Davidson. They had their hotline opened.
Okay.
We have Palm, I don't know if some of them could remember in the early days, Palm Pilot, where they have actually got the support hotline as well.
Okay.
So there's so many types, like banking, usually they have credit card sales, insurance sales. It could be, book publication ordering hotline.
Yeah.
Could be many. So I was exposed to that as a job, and I loved it. I loved the fact that I was really learning about all the different industries, and it was very professional, And I kind of love because people hear my voice, and I kind of build trust. It just happens, right? How you handle your customers, how you handle people-to-people relationship, and how you get that transaction done over a call. So that's how I started with my formal inside sales, or known as contact center kind of job.
Yeah.
Last time, so.
So does that did that experience help you gain that confidence in sales to communicate and chat? Like you mentioned that you wanted to find a job where you don't have to actually meet the client. I know a little bit of your background, right? You being like a Indian Muslim woman, and probably in your younger days, your family being maybe a little bit more reserved, didn't find that something that they wanted you to do. So was doing some of that experience oh my God, even my voice is going. But in doing some of that experience, did that help you, I guess, add to that experience of that confidence? Because I'm guessing before then, you might not have had that experience to reach out to a stranger and just spark up a conversation and all of a sudden start talking about something, right?
Right. So you're right. So family environment and the culture that I came from, usually they're very reserved. So especially my family was very reserved with women going out to work, and I had to build that trust and really come out from and change their mindset over this, right? So, but that's how it started, and I also preferred something where I go 9 to 6, do this stuff and come back. As I said in the beginning, we are discovering our own skills and talents. So I actually consistently hit my quota and my targets and KPIs, and I was a top sales performer in my company.
Nice.
And it was across different projects, and that's when I knew that, hey, I have a spark for this. I think I can connect with people. I'm not a real salesperson. I'm not trained salesperson, but it's just like how you educate and help people get that solution, right? So I think I kind of understood that was what I was good in. And I started with that. And then from there, I kind of, in year 2000, there was a lot of call center boom, contact center boom, So 1998, 2000, that's when I actually started my first company, official first company. And during that period, I helped companies set up inside sales processes. Inside sales is widely known today. The buzzword is inside sales, virtual sales. At that point of time, it's called inbound, outbound, telemarketing, telesales environment.
Okay.
So I help companies set up programs, telemarketing programs, telesales programs, road warrior programs, which is like, field sales plus and inside sales kind of programs. So that was so I was a consultant helping people set up contact centers and telemarketing programs. So it went on for several years, and then I was headhunted by Microsoft. I was actually called in by Microsoft to support a regional contact center project. And then ever since there, I've got some experience in there for a couple of years. And I was literally exposed to channel sales environment, handling distributor markets, regional inside sales contact center environment, across subsidiaries, across working with global teams and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah. So that was all the milestone that accumulated over the years. And I also saw a gap in formal, proper education or training around inside sales, because what I found was there's a lot of methodologies that's being driven out, like frameworks and everything. But at the end of the day, how can we make it simple enough for someone to understand sales and take sales as a career? Because nobody today, we did a survey with college graduates. Nobody wants sales. Nobody thought of sales as a formal career option, a profession.
It's funny you say that, because like when you mentioned this, and every company I've ever been to, there's always sales reps, right? There are also, the fancier name these days is business management, business development manager, right? But in essence, you're a salesperson,
Right.
okay? But you're right, like no one actively leaves high school or goes to college being like, I'm going to be a salesperson.
Yeah.
It's something you end up eventually doing. And as far as I know, there's never been any like formal education around sales. There's always about what should you learn about, and then I find like a lot of salespeople are like those naturally more talkative people. They're naturally more a bit more aggressive. They're a little bit more straight and direct. Those are common characteristics of salespeople. I guess from my experience, like they're mainly like a lot of men, right, in the sales positions. So going through like all these particular marketing and sales, telemarketing, and then setting up some of these things for all these other businesses, how did you eventually get to the point where you go like, oh, this is a big issue that I see. No one else seems to be kind of covering this topic. And then what was your personal, I guess, passion or drive towards wanting to then create this? Because I mean, there's millions of people in the world, but like it is not common for me to hear of a business that particularly just wants to educate sales for salespeople and for businesses.
There are a lot of training companies out there. So people leave their job, they become a trainer the next day. We have a lot of like that. So the question here is, who is really driving that advocacy and professionalism or ethics behind the sales profession, and who is really putting that effort to really educate talents or new talents to come into sales as a profession. So there's a lot of bad stigma around it, basically because you see all these insurance guys. I mean, sorry, I have a lot of professional insurance friends and guys who serve me as well. But what I'm trying to say is people are just exposed to a lot of different type of personalities who are, as you said, aggressive or very, like, I don't want to give my number in case you like harass me or something, right?
Yeah.
So bad experiences because they end up buying something that they didn't want or pay higher than what they are. So there's a lot of issues out there in the world. And I think that's all because of aggressive targets, lack of formal education, and lack of commitment to a formal ethical process. That's what I saw. And I think there's a lot of sales associations in other regions, but there isn't one strong association that is driving things in this part of the world, which is ASEAN. So I saw there was a lack of this. I also know that sales is not a difficult job at all. And yes, it's not a difficult job at all. And you just need to know certain things, certain processes, techniques, tactics, strategies, handling different products, solutions, or industries. And if you know customer psychology and you know how to handle, so long you have the right interest in educating and help people solve their biggest pain point, they will. I don't see why somebody doesn't want to transact with you. So I did see there was a gap. There's a lot of big training companies that drove their own methodology, but all I wanted was, how can I make it simple enough for someone to understand? How can I make it professional enough for someone to want to be in that role? And how can we make sure that all this education that we drive adds value to their career next time and to the organization next time? So there's only two things. For an individual, it's like, am I learning with the right person? And is my training or my education recognized and endorsed by my future employer? For the employing company, it's about, can you skill up this person so that they can meet their numbers and show me the results? And if yes, why not, right? So this was it. So that's how it all accumulated over the years. And then, so when I was in Microsoft at the point where I decided to, in 2013, where I was doing a lot of sales evangelism and working with internal sales CMOs across APAC.
Yeah.
And then it came to me just like that, like, I think I need to really formalize my business this time around, because when I started in year 2000, I didn't have a formal business background or understanding. It was everything was trial and error, failing and getting up and learning, right?
Yeah.
So when I started in 2013, I formalized the business, and that's how the name came out, Asia Pacific Sales and Marketing Academy. That's what I want, So it's not difficult to understand what you're doing. It's Asia Pacific Sales and Marketing, and it's an academy.
Yeah,
That's right.
The explanation is within the name
Yeah,
already.
exactly.
Okay.
So that's what I wanted to do, and I was very clear with what I wanted to do. And this time around, because of all my learnings, I could formalize my business. I was very professionally done, and this is a 7th year or 8th year already.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
To survive, I think businesses to survive even past the 4-year point, let alone grow and scale, and then obviously in 2020 this year to continue to survive. I think this has been, as I learn more about entrepreneurship and business owners and CEOs, I'm like, you know what, this isn't as easy as a job as I originally would have thought. Just because getting to know everyone's story, it's like everyone's got slightly different paths and journeys. They got a lot of things that are similar, but depending on the context, very different. So congratulations for getting so far. I guess my question's for when you get to the point where this is what I want to make, this is where I want to go, how did you then get, say, your first few clients, and then how did you eventually scale that, right? Because you gotta train other people. Like, how did you hire the people? How did you get them to be on the same mindset? And then how did you scale the business?
All right. So I think the first project that I got, I wouldn't say everything was bed of roses for me, of course. Things were tough. But what I learned is the value of network and all these kind of people that you meet in your professional life over the several years, and how you kind of build relationships with them. You just have to have a genuine way of connecting with people and keeping in touch and being, having that relationship. I never thought, I was just like everybody were friends. Every time I go into a company, I make friends. My colleagues become my friends. I keep in touch with them. I check on them. And it's like that, right? And then you work professionally in an environment. People remember you for who you are and the results that you have shown. People remember you. So this kind of a lot of people don't know or don't understand that all these jobs that they are into, all this network, the colleagues that they meet are going to be their future network. So that's how I got my first business. One of my ex-colleague, he found out that I actually started out on my own, and I'm doing this. And the first project, very big project that I got was for Petronas. And yes, and I had to train 60 people on project management, PMP. And I was like, I'm in sales and marketing, and what do I do with PMP, And because it's a new project and Petronas is a big logo to acquire, I was like, I still know how to manage training, administration, and handling and coordinating trainers and facilitating that whole process, program managing it technically, right? So I took on that project, and that's how I got my first deal. And then from there on, there were a lot of people who supported me on the background to keep going with what I was trying to do, because they've, like, every time I tell them what I'm doing or what this whole company is about, they go like, wow, this is great, and like, so they keep encouraging me to keep doing what I'm doing. And then a lot of people from Microsoft, Oracle friends, people from Cisco and all these different companies, they got to know, and then they started calling me up. So it's word of mouth. I was not, I wasn't doing SEO marketing. I wasn't doing a lot of digital marketing as I would, and being reserved myself. I wasn't out. I wasn't vocal. I wasn't showing my face in front of cameras. But there was a lot of word of mouth referral. And I remember still there was one big client entity where they had to like really force me to take on their project. And I can tell you that's one of my biggest biggest client now for the last 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
So that's how it is, right? So you don't just take projects and then done with it. Like you really kind of have run rate business from there. So that's how it grew. It wasn't like suddenly like big shot of projects.
Yeah.
Slowly, it trickled in, and then that's how it is.
Okay, so like it sounds like your strategy, and I don't know if this is even by accident or you planned it, but it was like keeping the core of what you want, in terms of like helping people sell that, or get enabled to be better at sales, and having that good relationship and connection throughout your employee days, right? With like the different businesses and the work that you did, because you mentioned, your colleagues maybe in the future will be your clients, and that definitely sounds like that's what happened, right?
Yeah.
You worked well with your colleagues saw what your value was, and then when you decided to take your own venture, it was like word of mouth.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes better, in my opinion, than literally having like a lot of money spent on marketing and branding right off the bat. I mean, if someone's willing to say, hey, this person is someone that you should do or get in contact with to do this thing that you want, that word of mouth has a lot more transactional value instead of just like a video telling you that. I mean, a video could be like the next best thing, right? But to have a friend or another colleague tell and express this to like their CEO or CFO that I vouch for this business, that helped you kind of get to a certain place.
Yep.
Now from there, I know you started getting like some official associations, accreditations, you got things, because you mentioned like you wanted this business not only to be just helping people out, but you wanted it to be recognized, right? Because that's like another value add to any certification. How did you go about scaling in that way? How did you find the right partners? How did you get yourself accredited? How did you get yourself recognized by Singapore government to say, yes, this business is legit? What was that process like?
Right. So, as I said, and to the point just now you made, I just want to make sure that, I'm not saying don't do marketing, but what I'm saying is branding is equally important. Your reputation is equally important. Reliability and trust is important. That's what I was saying. Yeah.
It's part of the same
part of
thing,
that
right?
whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, in terms of the partnerships and associations that I've got, I think I kind of state course and kind of always reflect on why am I doing what I'm doing, because sometimes when it comes to business, your value system may clash with the decision that you have to make money. Like, can I go sidetrack and maybe do some other training that I want to do, or can I compromise on this or compromise on that? But we always have to kind of stay focused and stay course and just do what you intended to do, right? So from that, I just know that I need an accreditation partner. And I didn't want to reinvent the wheel, because I just want to make sure that there's no one in the world that's doing what I'm doing. Or at least if there's someone that's already doing, just partner with them, right? Collaborate. So that's how I reached out to the associations and kind of looked at what they already have and look at how they can kind of endorse what I'm doing. And it took a lot of credibility and trust as well, because people don't just partner with anybody.
Yeah.
So who you are, your background, there's a lot of factors that comes into partner relationship and selection. Equally, like I also have my own way of selecting my partners. Complementing partners, sometimes it's like collaboration partners, sometimes it's just vendors. It really depends on the kind of relationship that I would like to have. If I'm going to put my brand together with another brand, I make sure that I go through a rigorous process of that partnership as well. So for me, it's the same process for the associations. When they look at the global associations, when they look at me, who am I? So when they look at a lot of different factors and they see that, yes, they believe in what I was doing, and they strongly wanted to partner with me as well. So that's how I got the relationships moving.
Yeah.
It's been very strong since, because we all have the same vision and purpose of professionalizing sales and helping the community around us with good, proper sales standard and education. For Singapore government, I would say the government agency E2I, to get endorsed, it was not easy. It took many, many, many years of perseverance and due diligence to really reach out to them, because you can't just get to the contact person just like that. You got to really follow up and work your way through.
You can't just like register and apply and then.
No, I don't think so. That I think now it's straightforward, but many years back it wasn't like that. 5 years back, you know,
Okay.
so I had to really work hard to get that relationship, and I had to work on strategic partnership with NTUC and E2I. So I had to show them, and way before what others were already saying, I already told them that this is the future. And there's a market for virtual sales and inside sales, and people are going to go digital, and we need to skill up Singaporeans with these skills. That was like 5 years back that I told them that, and we actually had formal. That's when how they looked around and they said, "Yeah, you are the company that does this well and does this properly, and the kind of endorsement and the partnership that we're looking for." Reason being is that I'm not just a one-man training shop, you know, but it's a formal business
Yeah.
with the right sales standard, sales curriculum, certification, and accreditation around it. So it was not about volume, but it's about the quality of the program and also the future direction of what we need for Singaporeans.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's how we started it.
It seems like that was probably one of the overarching like main requirements from Singapore government, that it's like it's based towards like how it improves like the locals here. But before you could even get into the eyes of the government, E2I and everything else that you mentioned, you had to have already got the business slowly running. You had to
Yes.
have those partnerships kind of more or less in place. So bigger entities that saw your entity as like, yeah, we're aligned
Yes,
with
exactly.
them,
This
we'll
is-
partner with them. And therefore, your names, just by aligning with yourself with bigger associations, gets more credibility.
Yep.
And then the government was able to kind of take notice, investigate a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you could just say, that's what you want to do today, and then apply it to
Yeah.
the government, and then they see it, and it's like accept or
No,
reject.
that's not how it works. Yeah. So a lot of people think that this is easy, but actually it's not. It takes a lot of different things to put together in order for you to really get to that stage. They just don't partner with anyone as well.
I think for Singapore government specifically, they really do all their background checks, all the
Yes.
paperwork checks,
Yes.
before they're even going to allow you to say
Yeah.
that the government approves.
Yes.
Right.
That's why when we start a business, I think there's two things, right? You have a business, you're trying to make money, and you're trying to, sell it to someone and move on. There's another type of business where you're here to stay and you're here to do something good for long term, with or without kind of revenue going in sometimes, you know. And we are here as an education and as an academy for sales, and we are here to stay.
That's great.
So-
So you mentioned you partnered up with this bigger association, right? What was that association, and how did you find them? And what was, I guess, for that specific partnership, what were the components you were looking at that made you go say, like, this is the partnership that I win, and I think you will win as well? And then how did that happen?
Yeah. So when we talk about partnership, there's two things. One is we are at their mercy. Another one is they are at our mercy kind of relationship.
Okay.
So when I was looking, so 2013, internet was already up, right? So we Googled up, I was like checking out on certifications and checking out on inside sales kind of domain and who were the leading authority in this,
Yeah.
and all the players. I did a research and that's how I found AAISP, the Global Inside Sales Association, and I reached out to them. Again, same thing. It took a while for them to come back,
Yep.
and then through somewhere else, they reached out to me asking me if I want to be a chapter president in Singapore to represent Inside Sales.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay, I was already in touch with you before for a partnership,
Yeah,
so
it's a
it
bit
is
like-
kind of, yes.
Okay.
So that's how that all came out together, and
Okay.
then they were not ready for Asia APAC market at that point of time, and but I kind of showed that potential, and I really kind of showed that passion, and I just wanted to make this happen. I want that certification, I want that endorsement, I want their peer-to-peer community to be here. I want to represent them. That's how
Okay.
it's a win-win situation. I became their chapter president and their brand ambassador in Singapore, and I also became a partner with them for APAC and Middle East market for the
Okay.
certification. Strong 4 years partnership. So I was at their mercy. Some people think, because they're too big, they have all the global leaders and all the big brands under the umbrella.
Yeah.
And I would think that company of their type would really look at the partnership very seriously. And I think there's a lot of different components that contributed to us being their partner. And that says a lot about our background as well.
Well, you mentioned that eventually they came and approached you to kind of endorse their company here while you were already trying to go through the partnership. So it's kind of like a little bit
Yeah.
around the way. But do you think a lot of that had come out or come through because of your reputation that you've been building across the time?
Yes, could be. So I was like today, people are talking about LinkedIn and B2B platform. I have been in LinkedIn since 2006, 2005, 2006, early days, and I think online, not just online, but I think your reputation, how you carry yourself. I mean, there's just a lot of things. I don't want to like do injustice, just by saying certain things, but I think it's a lot about the person himself, the company itself, the purpose, and are you here for a short time, or are you for a long haul? Are you doing this for your own reason or for a community reason? There's a lot of things, because value system needs to align.
Yeah.
And it all has to align together. So that's how it all worked.
Yeah, so your partnership with them aligned, as in you guys had the same ideas, the same value, and then when it came to the partnership sounding, it's like you needed them to recognize your business, right? And the things that you were doing, and they were happy to do that because they were asking you to represent them as well. And then at the same time, they needed your help to represent them in a completely new market. So it felt like, it sounds like there was a
complete synergy, definitely.
correct. There's something lacking in
Yes.
each in each entity, and then you filled each other's
Right.
gaps. And as long as the right ideas and values are the same, then that equals a good partnership. Is that what people should be looking out for?
Yeah, I think one is community representation. There's a lot of communities and groups, interest groups forming everywhere. Like, who can you put as the lead in front of the community, or who could be that one person that can really manage that community, right? So that's one aspect of it. On the other hand, when it comes to brand representation or brand partnership, to even say that I'm partnered with this person or this company, I think that's another ballgame altogether. And for that, right, if I want you, for example, I want you to do a financial endorsement on something, for example, how can I give it to anybody? I need to give to someone who understands that, who understands the nitty-gritties, who's able to do an audit, who's able to do the governance around it. And because no mistakes can be done on that part, right? So I think that's where, when it comes to, so there's two different things. Even though we found certain synergies on working together in different ways, I think the most essential aspect is, are you part of an interest group, or are you part of a business partnership, a formal partnership that takes a few things for you to even check before you become a partner? That's what I mean.
Going a little bit off track here, I want your personal opinion, because this is something I've seen many smaller business entrepreneurs try to do, to leverage each other's connections to build more sales and revenue. But sometimes I'm not quite certain if they're actually partnering up for the right reasons, or partnering up simply because another business has more connections they've never accessed and they're looking for more ways to just gain revenue. Do you think those businesses who are smaller, but obviously like they need the cash flow to run, and I know, or maybe you can enlighten me, when they just partner up with, say, like their friend company or a company that they feel like, oh, okay, like you got some connections, let's leverage off each other and sell more together. What's your opinion on that kind of strategy? And taking in mind, these businesses, they don't know what they're doing really, but they're only trying to build their revenue.
Right. I kind of understand where you're coming from, because there's a lot of people who also wants to partner with me, and they think that they can work with me. Hey, can you like promote my Enneagram program or my other program, this program, that program? Like, I kind of understand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple of things. In early years when I started, remember this is my second business, right? So the early years, I try to work with everybody, collaborate, right?
Yeah.
And see if we got synergies.
Yeah.
But one thing I learned, and one thing that I always do is, it's not about the size of the business. And contrary to what other people say, okay, it's more about how you leverage the resources across the world to really put things together for your business, right? You can have a part-time designer who comes in and do all your brand collateral. You can have a part-time person who comes in and work on all your content blogs, for example, right? So it's not about the number of resources that you have that defines whether you're small or not. I think it's the way we conduct business, the process that we carry, and the way, the formality that's around how you work on certain things defines whether you're small or not. Okay, so let me explain this. For example, when I do business in APAC SMA, everything has a formal process. For example, if I want to hire a trainer or get a trainer, I make sure I go through the same process that a big corporation would do.
Okay.
I'll sign an NDA. I'll make sure that the formal application is done. I have a formal contract in place. I have all their pay slips and HR systems set up. Their formal logins all set up. So that they see a belonging and they see a very formal business approach to how we manage things. Similarly, when we work with vendors or we work with partners, same process. We work on a very formal process. Some people think, hey, why do you want to do this? But sometimes these agreements and NDAs and the formalities around the engagements really shows that you are in serious business. And that's number one. Number two is, it's not about, okay, tomorrow I see something and I want to work together with you. It's not about that. It's, you got to see whether that product or that services that this person is going to bring in either complements what you're already doing or fills a gap that you have. For example, I have a inside sales certification program. Okay, and it's a formal course. It goes across 8 weeks or 12 weeks, and people really go through different structures and they get coaching. One thing that I could have done better is voice training and prospecting pitching, for example. So even though I do this as part of the training program, I could go as a deep dive program, skills enablement for that area alone. So I saw this platform or tool that was proposed to me by another partner, and they said, hey, look at this, someone can look at the script, they can rehearse the script, and they can record the script, and the manager can review, and we can actually perfect the pitch again. Okay, and I found that platform was very good because it does the scoring, it gives you a red, yellow, green, and really perfects the script. So what I'm trying to say is, look at your product that you have, the solutions that you have. Can this complement what you're already doing? And so therefore strengthening what you have to offer? Or does it fill a gap? Or do you want to just make a holistic solution out of this? For example, I want to put in an entrepreneurship program so I can offer sales and marketing and customer service. I probably need a finance person and a PR person and whatever person to come together to make a complete solution, right? So you've got to look at that first. And then you make a decision on how and who you want to partner with. And when you want to partner with someone, make sure that person also is aligned with your company core value systems and branding alignment from that perspective. Because sometimes if they damage something or if they don't deliver on what they have to, it damages your brand. Because at the end of the day, the customer is going to see APAC SMA. They're not going to say so-and-so. Because I engage you. You are answerable to my deliverable. And the quality, right? Yeah. So I hear you. There are a lot of partnerships and collaborations. People want to have small deals and stuff, which is fine. You can bring them in as a consultant or a trainer or just an adjunct or ad hoc person, part-time person, freelance person, contract by contract, but not really partnership. But if you're looking at partnership, make sure that it's a formal partnership in that sense.
Okay, so that gives some pretty good direction for figuring out partnership. I think what I was able to gather from that is before you take any massive steps into officializing that partnership, you should go over all those steps, right? Whether or not you got the same values, can you fit each other's shortcomings, can you alleviate each other's business problems, and all those kind of things like reputation, all that. Is a synergy there, and then formalize it officially. But if before that, if you haven't been able to figure that out, if this is early conversations, I'm hearing that you can just hire them on an ad hoc basis, test the waters, see how they do certain things in certain ways, and see whether or not that actually helps the business, or is that something where it's great. We tried it. Some things didn't work out, or maybe it did, and try to see how you can work towards the partnership. But don't just go like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
hey,
no.
brother, hey, okay, bro, business done. That's not the way to do it. Because
Yeah.
I've honestly, I swear, I've heard some of these like smaller businesses or entrepreneurs who want to just start out, especially if they're super young, right?
Yeah.
They're going to make that mistake of just going like, oh, you got an idea? I got something like that idea. Let's just partner up and do the same thing. And then, because I've heard this with actually like maybe 3 of the other interviews we've heard, is like their first business, they just do whatever.
Right.
And then it always fails somehow. It's usually to do with the partnership, right?
Yeah.
Like something went wrong with the relationship
Yeah.
and then it breaks.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ways a person can partner. Co-founders, partnering for a solution, or coming in as a vendor. I always interview the person, or I always have a formal discussion around whether things align, right? Because personalities, chemistry, when somebody want to work together. I know that I started one company, and the client wanted to work with me, and and the other partner felt that she wasn't recognized, or she said, no, don't take that partnership. I mean, don't take that client. I'm like, no, I gave my word. I've signed the agreement. I cannot break that agreement. So sometimes value systems, how we conduct, how our way of doing things could differ. So when it comes to branding and formal relationships, formal business management, have everything formalized, and you conduct in a way that how a bigger company would operate as. Yeah.
So it's like do your due diligence.
Yeah, you have to.
Doesn't matter if you're small or big.
Doesn't
There's
matter.
a reason why a big company has to do them.
Yeah.
Smaller companies should still take that into
Yeah.
to account. Okay, awesome. Great stuff there. I guess one of the other big questions now is, what is it like being the CEO? Especially also being a CEO and representing the Indian Muslim women community, because by any standards, it's a little bit of a rarity, even for Southeast Asia, to have these 3 things, and to be a CEO and to be a parent and a mother. You're kind of like got a lot of things going against you, and yet you've kind of persevered and gone past it. So what is it all like being a CEO in your position today?
Yeah, it is tough, definitely, because on one hand, I have my business that I need to manage, and I need to make sure that it's successful, and we stay on mission with what we want to do, and we are now serving a community, and we have to make sure that we conduct ourselves correctly, and we bring everything in the interest of the community. On the other hand, I have a family, and I have to manage them, and I have to make sure that my kids are all taken care of. I don't want to be like, this broke down because, or the son was seen in somewhere just because the mom wasn't there for him. So working from home and managing my own business kind of helped me decide where and how I want to work in my own terms. I mean, there's a lot of Indian Muslim women who are working, and they are professional in their own career, but not many of them outspoken, or they come out and they show their face to the world.
Yeah.
And I'm one of them too. I hardly put my face in front of cameras.
Yeah. Until today.
Until
Sorry,
today, right?
we forced you into this.
Yeah, I know. So, I do reserve. But what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it's a support system. Your family support is very, very important. I think there's a lot of support from the community as well. And yeah, I think it's all working well. It's not an easy place to be in, but I know where and how to balance balance it, because when I'm out in a wedding environment, or in my relatives' place, or in my in-laws' place, I'm just your daughter-in-law, your auntie, and your whoever, or sister or friend, just like one of you, right?
Yeah.
I don't bring my CEO suit inside that discussion, right?
Yeah.
So when I'm in a professional environment, I'm just being myself, like whatever that I'm caused to do. And I'm just normal. I'm just human. I'm just very, very normal. I don't have a air about who I am or what I am. I know for a fact that every day I learn, and I discover new things. So I think I'm just scratching the surface, and I think there's still a lot more that I could do, actually. Yeah.
So it sounds to me like you're just very humble about all of that.
It's not about humble. I don't know. I just feel that there's still a lot more to do. I think there is. There's so much
sure.
depth in everything, and sometimes I feel like, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have done this. But I also kind of got to a place where I know that I can't boil the ocean overnight, and it takes time, right?
Yeah.
But I know for a fact there's a lot of things that I can do. and still more to do.
I'm gathering a lot of like that humility from that. I think that's also, I mean, from what I can gather and from the story you've been telling me, that's part of the reputation that you have, and it sounds like that's what people enjoy about you. Have you ever had a time in your career or throughout your CEO founding business where any of these three aspects of your life or just who you are had an effect with the business? Has that ever been a problem?
Like, for example, I wouldn't say that's a problem.
You don't have to name any names here, but just the situation.
Yeah, I think a couple of scenarios I can give is Asian men always have that dominating characters. You
mean the
over,
Chinese one, right?
No, no. Almost all Asian men, in general,
Okay.
they do have that a bit more edge over the woman, and being an Indian and a woman, people stereotype you. The first thing
For
they
sure.
want to know is, oh, where do you stay, or what's your education, where do you come from, what's your husband doing, and they try to stereotype you, and then they always feel that, oh, being an Indian woman, you must be lesser in certain ways,
Like submissive?
Yeah, submissive, or maybe they feel that you may not know what you're talking about, or just the first impression, right? Just the
Gotcha.
first impression. They always feel that you're just I don't know, whatever.
A bit more sheltered,
Yeah, I don't
or
know.
like
Just that impression of women in general,
Mm-hmm.
especially Indian men to Indian women. They always have this view about certain people. If not, they term you as arrogant and bossy, and
Yes, okay.
So they always have this. They always stereotype you, and they have this. So I have a lot of some of the Indian colleagues or Indian clients who kind of stereotype you, and then they try to think that you may not be up to that mark. But until you open your mouth and you talk about certain things, right? When I go to certain clients, they also have this impression about what you could potentially do for them.
Yeah.
Do you know your stuff?
They're
right?
questioning your
Yeah,
abilities,
yeah. So
right?
do you know your stuff? And
Even though
and
you have this accreditation and
no,
all this stuff already?
but the thing is, until you have a professional discussion, nobody can.
No one can really decipher whether or not
that works or not, right? So yeah, that happens sometimes. There is discrimination. There is a bit of man-woman thing. There's still a bit of you're an Indian woman, or you're a Muslim woman. You're supposed to be like that, or you're like this, and. I don't care, I really don't care, And I think one of the things that I try to do is, so long my family knows what I'm doing, and so long my husband is okay with it and he's supportive of it, and I don't do something that would damage the family's name and the reputation or the brand or the partnership, even because how I conduct myself also will hit back the partners that I have, right?
It will affect everyone,
Yeah, of course.
right?
It's like
Yeah.
an ecosystem that you're here, you're
Yeah.
responsible, right? So so I think there has been moments, but I just kind of moved with it professionally and tactfully, yeah.
So when you move forward with that, right? Because I want to get something that, someone who's watching who might be in a similar position or has those similar situations, how do you combat that? Like, what would you do when you say continue to be professional? What does that mean for someone?
There's various situations, when you talk about Indian women, naturally, they always have to go back home by certain time. They cannot travel out. They have family commitments. There's a lot of different things that and also depends on the level of position that person carries, right? So if you're at a junior to management level and you're still figuring out, your career, and you're still trying to come and work and trying to create a position for yourself, I think it's like how you balance your family life versus your business life or professional life. When you're a career woman and when you're conducting business, when you're at a CEO level or C-level positions, again, client meetings or traveling out for 5 days or 10 days to US, for a business meeting or whatever that is, right? I mean, again, balancing that work versus family life, right? Because you still have to, if you have a big offsite meetings where everyone is gathering and you need to be there, you need to be there, right? So I think, again, just kind of gain that trust from your family. It's not about permission seeking, but it's more about show them, I think a lot of people are just scared. especially Indian Muslim women, like either they're too vocal or they're just too scared to even bring that out and tell their family members that they have to be here or do that or do this. I think nowadays things have changed a bit. People tend to see that career is important as well.
Yeah.
So you got to just open up and show the purpose, and I think people will understand.
Okay. So it sounds like to be able to keep that professionalism, a good part of that for someone who's might facing those prejudice stuff is first you need to have the trust from the back end, your family, to already trust that, hey, you are doing the right thing.
Correct.
If people feel you're being vocal, that's their opinion. As long as you're being true to yourself and standing up for what you believe in a professional manner,
Yeah.
that's okay, right? Because I agree, even as someone just also going through careers and growth and so forth, it's like not everyone's going to love you, right? You can't please everyone.
Yeah.
But I can only accept myself, because if I'm trying to always please everyone to accept me, then I'm not really going to be happy, right? I'm just constantly pleasing someone else. And as long as I'm staying within the definition of what I feel is appropriate for what I believe in, I personally, this is my opinion, I personally don't care how you think of me, because I think of myself pretty good. And if you think I'm lesser because I am this or that, that's your opinion, that's amazing, that's good for you.
I
Right?
think it's like simple examples, like you go to a bar. For example, you have US clients and you have to go to a bar for an evening dinner out. People might be drinking, but you don't necessarily have to drink, right? You can be having an orange juice, for example. So it's like, so long you know what you're doing is right, and so long your family members trust you on that, that's all that matters.
I think that's a very great point, especially for your situation, your culture, and the Muslim thing, right? Because I think going out and drinking with clients is a very common practice here in Asia. It's almost like expected. But then it is sometimes weird, like let's say you have Japanese clients. Their tendency is to go out, have a couple of drinks, maybe discuss business.
Correct.
But usually it's like gain that relationship and then
Yes.
talk business tomorrow.
Yeah.
But then sometimes it's a bit different if you don't drink, and that's because of your choice of religion and culture, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can't change that.
Yeah.
But as long as you're confident with that,
Yeah.
then they should be okay with that
Yes.
too, right? And
Yeah.
maybe if they're not, then maybe
Yeah.
it's not the right client or partner.
Yeah, no, but even for family members, right? I mean, basically, they just need to know that you're going out to a bar, but you're not drinking, right? So I think in certain cultures, it's forbidden that they go to bars, for example. But it's not necessary that everybody go to bar just to have a drink. They can actually have a Coke.
Yeah.
So I think it's just people's perception and their view of the world, and they may not necessarily be exposed to this kind of thing. So they tend to have this preconceived mindset. So you just need to educate them over a period of time and show them that everything is fine, and that's what has happened. It took me many years, but slowly to gain that trust and to show them that just because somebody goes to work or somebody goes up in rank or earns higher than what they need to, doesn't mean that things need to be broken sometimes.
Awesome. So when it comes to being a CEO and everything, right? You're a leader. You're the one that spearheads most things. All your employees, your partners will look to you to do certain things, or to be a certain someone. What are some advices you have for being a better leader? Did you have a mentor that helped teach you some of this stuff? Is it all kind of self-taught through your experience? What advice do you have for other people in your position or growing to be better at that?
All right. It's a mix of different things. But most important is I see leaders, I observe people, and I bring in like what I don't like to be treated as, or I don't like to be. When I don't like someone and some styles or some stuff that they do, I try not to do that as well, right? So I show a lot of compassion. I show a lot of, there's a lot of things that comes to leadership, and it's just about, it's a mixture of everything that you just mentioned. So it's again conducting professionally and managing people. There's a lot of different things that comes in play.
It sounds like, in essence, it's like treat others how you want to be treated. right? Because I've heard of
Basic of everything,
the
I guess.
basic essence of that. Because I've heard that like numerous times by many other.
It's a basic, just keeping things very simple, right? It's just very basic foundation of everything. Some people, they have a certain character, and for them that character could be normal, and they tend to also partner or work with people or who also have similar characters because it works, it gels together. But at the end of the day, it's just all about making sure that you have that trust, you have that you're accountable for the ecosystem that you serve.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you conduct yourself properly, and everything else will just come in place, I guess.
So about conducting yourself properly. So I find myself struggling with this more and more so recently, and it comes down to emotions, right? Let's say like when I'm more of like an employee, I'm lower on the scale, so my reputation has less effect on the business sometimes. But sometimes I like emotionally wise, I'm like, ugh, get stressed, right? But then as you become higher, as you become manager, leader, CEO, there's like so much more things that's going to stress you out that people don't realize. How do you control the emotion, right? What do you do?
Zen, man. So yeah, I do get stressed up. I do get a lot of, early years I used to like just show my stress openly.
Yeah.
As I age and as I grow, and I don't really bring stress into my family. Like, I don't bring my work into my family or
So you
similarly.
try to keep it separate, right? Work
It's
stress
very,
does
very,
not enter
very,
family.
Yes, it's very separate, and you just don't end up shouting to your colleagues because you're stressed out, right? You don't do that, So, stress is stress, but at the same time, you just need to know what, it's just being more efficient and productive, or just look at what is that stress component that's triggering it, and then try to manage that. And if it gets too much, I just take a break and take off and rest, and just go on holidays. I mean, now we can't, but then, just take a break, rest. So that's how I manage it. I'm very, very careful and mindful of the environment that I serve, because your stress couldn't, like a ripple effect, right? It shouldn't scatter to other people, If you keep saying stress to someone every day, that probably the person, even the best of everyone, could also feel that pain or stress, So don't influence that, right? So just manage yourself, I guess.
So it's like take a break. It sounds like there was
Priority
like
management. Look at what's causing the stress, and then address it according to
yeah,
that.
the looking at what's causing the stress, because that's what I've been feeling sometimes too. Is it might not even be the work itself, but maybe it's the workload
Yeah.
or the person behind the workload, or someone
or
telling.
expectation setting. So it could be something, right? Coming to terms of what you can do, what you can't do, accept reality sometimes, and understand that, you cannot boil the ocean overnight. You cannot change someone overnight. You cannot bring someone to look into what you're trying to do overnight. So it all takes time to change, and so just accept it, right?
Yeah.
Just accept it, and then try to work out, right? Sometimes it's, as you said, it's workload. You're just trying to prioritize, look at what's important, what's not important. Last time I used to do a lot of pro bono work. Anybody asked me for help,
You're
I
just gonna
just
try
go
and
and
help.
help and support them, and but now I got to look at it like, hey, I don't have energy anymore. I kind of have only that number of hours. I learned to say no.
Finite.
So
This is something
all
I've
right.
been learning recently as well, saying no. But
Yeah.
it sounds like it's like definitely you got to reflect what's the problem, then you can figure out somewhat of
Yeah.
a solution, and that is one way to then start moving into a place where you can alleviate yourself from that stress. I've been recently reading this book about something called essentialism. It's a little bit different from minimalism. Essentialism is more about finding what is essential, and I think you mentioned a point that relates to a certain chapter in that book, and it was talking about trade-offs. And as someone who gets better with essentialism thinking, it is understanding those trade-offs, and that you have a finite amount of time, and that if you choose to do something, you must also think about the trade-offs you must trade off to do that one thing.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, if you're going to do 10 pro bono projects, the trade-off is you're either going to neglect your family, or you're going to neglect your CEO job, or you're going to neglect something else. There has to be that trade-off. And I think, at least where I was discovering this, is I used to be the same way as well, or I'm kind of like transitioning into being better at saying no, but I'm realizing the trade-off by saying yes to everything means I can't actually do the core thing very well. And that is a mistake that has now caused me
Yeah.
all that stress.
Yeah, yeah. So I used to like be open for partnerships or even look at certain things, but now I'm very mindful of my time. My time is very important for me.
Yeah.
And I'm very selective with my meetings, the people that I meet, the kind of things that I do on a day-to-day thing, the kind of things that I do at home, a lot of things. It's kind of changed the way I operate totally.
Fantastic. Well, it's been an amazing conversation so far. I mean, it's been great hearing all your experiences, your business, partnerships, leaderships, personalities, personal life, religion, culture, all this kind of stuff. Zeenath, we're kind of coming close to the end of this whole session, so I want to try one new thing that I've never done with any of the interviews so far, and I want to do this quick fire question round,
Okay.
which means you got roughly about a minute. I'm going to try and time you on this one.
Okay.
A minute to answer. I got 6 questions for you.
Okay.
Try to keep it sweet and short,
Okay.
and then we'll go into the last final questions or
Sure.
whatever we have left. Okay, so quick fire round. First question: is there any other businesses or individuals that you look up to?
Yes.
Who and why?
There's a lot. I don't even need 1 minute to think about this, So there's a lot of business entities out there who have fantastic solutions and fantastic services to serve the cause that I'm trying to serve and to complete that whole thing. And there's a lot of individuals out there who are very, very good. And I do look up to them, and
Who are they though?
So I have a lot of colleagues or peers from the Global Inside Sales Association,
Okay.
from the Women Sales Pro Group. There's also a lot of people in the UK market. So a lot of the peers, the global peers in the same line of business. I think there are great people out there. Jake Rainey, Max, Laurie Richardson, Bob Perkins, and a lot more. There's a lot of people. I think there's a lot of great people out there, and there's a lot to learn from everyone.
Okay, that's fantastic. I like that you eventually mentioned their names because those are particular names I have personally never heard about. And I think that's all more to our kind of cause here because there are so many of them. But like you said, I think a lot of business entrepreneurs they're not really out there on the limelight as they are today, but there's just such a volume that just hasn't
Yes.
been. Next question. Favorite book to read? What is it about?
Right. I had a book on Game Changer. So the title of the book is called Game Changer. It really was a great book. It kind of gave a lot of different dimensions of how a business can be conducted, a design thinking element that was embedded. I think that was a great book that I had. There are a lot of other books as well, but my favorites are usually those kind of business strategies, marketing, so.
Okay, so under business strategy, marketing, Game Changer,
Was one of the very good book.
that book kind of helped you. Well,
Yeah,
change
because
the
for me,
game.
it's like all about you have a business, so what, right? So does it support something? But there's so many other businesses that does the same thing as you. So what is that differentiation that you can influence and impact with, right? So I like those kind of books that kind of look through those kind of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. First thing you think other people should think about before starting their own business?
Passion and finance. Passion and finance. Because if you're too passionate about something, you will do it no matter what.
Okay.
It may take $0 for next 2-3 years, but you still endure your perseverance and how you get it done. Finance is because look at your finances because they got to bootstrap themselves for a while, right? So unless you have a family to feed and if you're the sole breadwinner, you got to serve both, right? So you probably might want to do something that can get that kind of consistent income that can still support the family and still you do this on your side and get it done, right? So yeah, so these are the two things that I would think of for someone to start a business.
Yeah.
But of course, there's a lot of other things like, do you know what you're doing?
Yeah.
And do you know why you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
Right? So
But the first two that you feel is first, whether you're passionate about it and gotta think about your finance. I think a lot of like, I have a younger brother. He was been telling me like, oh, like I want to start this new fashion business. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're 18. He's
No, you
like,
can.
you can. I didn't say you
of
can,
course
but I was like, do you have the funds to buy materials and things like that? So, oh, I haven't thought about that. I'll just buy it off of that. I was like, the more I questioned him, the more he was like, oh, this is not realistic.
Yeah, but if you can work out your math, and if you know that this can work, and you can go into a startup committee or VC or some angel investors or business loans, then why not, right?
Yeah.
So just work out that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if you have a family, especially for those people who have a big family, you just want to make sure that you serve them, take care of them as
For
well.
sure, like responsibility, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, getting old, responsibilities.
And also, like, why you're doing what you're doing and the reason why you want to do it, right? Because a lot of people jump into this great business idea without looking at what the target market really needs and is there a market for it, actually. And then there are also people who come up with something, for them it's great, but you know what? There's a lot of other people already doing it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And do you have a brand for it, or is that something else that you're trying to do? You know,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
always do that evaluation, right?
What's that niche,
Yeah,
right?
do your homework,
aligns
do
with
that
your passion.
evaluation first, you know, and then get into it. But a lot of great ideas on country. You know, I've seen a lot of good business ideas just died off like that because of no cash, and because people don't know where to start, you know, and they say, okay, I don't know how to do it, or it's too tough. That discipline, the endurance, and the perseverance of really seeing it through kind of dies off after a while, you know. So, yeah, just be. I mean, when I started many years back, there wasn't a startup support system like what we have today. Today, there's a lot of startup cultures there. There's a
Yeah.
lot of companies that support startups.
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of grants and fundings and people who are available to mentor you. So, yeah, why not?
It's more more
More
readily
available, yeah,
today,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
The access,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of new entrepreneurs now, which is also the spark of this
Yeah.
whole series, right? Next question: best thing about being an entrepreneur?
Freedom. I can vouch for this because I like my freedom. I like my time. I like to do what I want to do and like doing. So I can go hour on and off, and that's true. You know, like when you like something, you love something, you can just go hours and hours on that. So that's what I like. I like my freedom and the freedom to do what I like to do.
I think that's like the pull for a lot of young people who think about entrepreneurship. It's like, oh, I get to be my own boss. I get to do my own thing. But that leads me to my second question. What's the worst part about being an entrepreneur?
Burnout. So I think, you know, at some stage, you know, there's just a lot of things that you need to juggle. You need to keep pace with a lot of different things, from your income tax to your finance accounts to your HR to your pay slips to your product development to corporate development to staff management to everything, you know, sometimes. It's very tough to put a balance. Sometimes I just need to switch. My brain switches from A to B to C to A to B and Z, and you know, so it's just that sometimes it's just so draining, and sometimes we're bootstrapped. We're very careful with finances, and then you know you just end up doing some stuff yourself. So, and everybody needs you there.
Yeah.
Your client needs you. Your staff also needs you. Your family also needs you. Everybody needs you. You know, so I think you know sometimes it's just tough. So the burnout is real.
That's funny. So like, the best part of being an entrepreneur is that you could choose what you want to do. The worst part about the entrepreneur thing is you got so much to do that everyone needs you, but you get to at least choose who you want to deal
It's
with.
like I have to keep my energy level consistent throughout the day, right? So from my morning calls, it starts as early as 8 a.m. all the way up to 8, 9 p.m. sometimes because of the U.S. calls.
Yeah.
And then after that, the family needs you at about 6, 7 p.m. or even like ad hoc in between that schedule. And you have to have that, you know, and my husband kind of, he's in a different industry, and he comes back very late. And I have to be with him, you know, until 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Sometimes he sleeps late. So, you know, you have that number of hours, and you got to keep your energy level for everybody, you know. So you know, when we are young, it's different. As we age, it's different. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's the hard part about the entrepreneur. Last question of this segment. What's the next big thing in business that you see that people should be aware about in the next decade?
Good. So I kind of looked at HR. I did say, I think 10 years back, that HR is going to be all online. And it happened now, but I'm not a strategist. I'm not a future strategist.
Our last conversation was with Anna,
Uh-huh.
and she does all the HR stuff, and
Stuff, all
it's all
right.
online
Okay.
business. So yeah, okay, but
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, yeah. So I think moving on for the next decade. Of course, I'm not a, I don't have the future ball, the ball in front of me. But I just think that everything is going to go digital. Everything is going to be virtual. The world is going to become more flatter than we think. Your competition is not in your next road or next building or something like that. It's all over the world. So it's like the global competitiveness is going to be very, very high. Digital, a lot of high-end technologies are going to come up, and that's for real.
Yeah.
So what is there to come up? I don't know. A lot of self-serve is already happening, so there may be limited things that we need humans for. And I think one thing that we probably may need is definitely compassion and human touch is definitely important. The brains that humans have will become more important. So yeah, I think that's what I think it is going to be like.
Okay, nice. And so this is not part of the round sessions, but amazing insights, very quick from those quick fire questions. This is my last question of today's interview, and it's a little bit more of a broad question, but what are some words of wisdom you have for other people looking to start out their own business and venture? What have you learned through the experience? How can we conclude and sum up everything that we've talked about, and how can that information help someone else?
Sure. So first thing first, be bold. Just come out with your ideas. If you think there is a market for what you're trying to serve, and there is a market that will really, really benefit from what you have to offer, come forward. The ecosystem is there available for you to support you on your growth. So just come forward with that. Don't close it. I know a lot of people don't come forward. Just reach out for help, and I'm happy to guide them to whatever there is. Yeah,
So it's like just take that first step.
take that first step.
Okay, that's great advice.
Yeah.
All right, Zeenath, I think we're gonna call it there because we've been talking for a little bit more than an hour. But it has been amazing getting to know you, getting to know your story, getting to know your business's story, your opinions and thoughts about a lot of things, and very glad you were able to come and make it to this
No,
show.
thank you for inviting me as well. But you see, there's a thing. It doesn't have to be complex. Nothing is that complex. It's just like how to keep things as simple as it is, and that's how it is. So, yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zeenath. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. Now, I hope you found that insightful and entertaining because I know I did when I conducted the interview. Now, if you haven't done so already, we also exist on Facebook and LinkedIn. So do try and find our page and give us a follow so that you can keep up to date with anything new that's happening with us. And until you see us in the next video or see me in the next video, I hope you have a great day and I wish you the best. Jikoi out. Peace.